Yes, and that's our cue to go. So, hey, good morning and welcome to our last session of Kuleana Leadership. Appreciate you guys all being here. You can't see, but right next to me, I got my little heater going over here because I'm up at Volcano at 4,000 feet elevation, and I'm looking over at my thermometer and it says 59. So, I mean, not in the house, 59 outside, but it's still 63 inside. So I got my little heater on. Any rate, thanks for joining us again. This actually, we started this out, I think way back in September was the first session of it. And so it's, it's been a really good journey through the year. And I do want to say that there's a few of you that actually have participated in every one of them. And so so what we're going to do, I mean, there's just a handful. It's not like, 300 people, but we are going to recognize you at the district conference with a little certificate of achievement that you did show up at all four of them. So that's really great. And I think on our screen, there's Alan Kusanoke there, and there's Anka, I believe. And we have a list. I think there's 4 or 5 of them. But yeah, thanks a lot for coming. Okay, so first, so what I'm going to talk about today, and this is kind of an evolving thing for me. Because I've always kind of felt in Rotary, and especially in Rotary in Hawaii, that it's a unique situation over here because we have a host culture, and that and it doesn't matter where you were raised. The fact that you're here in Hawaii today makes you part of this culture that really permeates every single piece of our life, right? And so I've always felt that when you connect our host cultural foundations with what Rotary espouses, what Rotary believes, that it gives us kind of a unique experience in Hawaii that I don't believe they get anywhere else. And where you can see this really vividly is when you go to PETS. Because at PETS, we stand out in a really good way because we show up there, we're in a united front, and all of you, I think everybody on the screen's been there before. We show up as a united front. We're doing our songs, our dances, our hospitality. We have a culture and a set of beliefs that dictates the way in which we behave, so we act a certain way, and that is and that's unique. So so I wanted to kind of go over those some of those foundations today, and then I want to talk about what happens when we meld together our cultural foundations and the traditional foundations that Rotary gives us. So okay, so let me share the screen and we'll rock and roll here. See which one we're going to choose. Oh, this one. Okay. Okay, everybody see that? I mean, I can't really see you guys, so can just somebody say,
yes,
I can see that? All right, good.
Yes.
All right, that's cool.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to talk about Native Hawaiian Leadership Foundations, how they connect with Rotaries, and you'll recognize the fourth person from the left there. That is Herb Lee, and he is a Rotarian and a member of our Kaneohe Club. And I'm gonna start in talking about Rotary first. So let's go to that one. Oh. Okay, everybody see Paul Harris there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's the first Hawaiian word of the day is mo'oku auhau. I know that's kind of a long word, mo'oku auhau. But mo'oku auhau means your genealogy, right? And genealogy in Hawaiian culture is really important because it dictates the foundations, the belief or behavior foundations that you've been given as you grow up, right? So although that's a Hawaiian word, mo'oku auhau, every single person has foundational beliefs, right? So whether you were raised in a Japanese family, whether you're German Irish from Kansas, Germany, wherever it is, you had certain foundations that were given to you as a kid and that come down as part of a generational thing. Like for me, Native Hawaiians, our genealogy is super important because, like I said, that determines the foundations you were given as you're growing up. So my grandfather was a Levi. He was a fisherman, right? And so those are the foundations in which, you know, he lived and he grew, and those were passed on to me, although, you know, I can't really fish that well. But the beliefs that came around fishing, like one of his beliefs is that like he would never spear fish, right? So to him, because if you spear fish, then the fish won't come back. So what he would do is go there, and he had a way in which he would just put this this kind of mixture, they call it palu, and they put it in the water, and then the fish come, and they just use a net and bring the fish up. So that was one of his foundational beliefs. So what Paul Harris did is when he started Rotary, he had these foundational beliefs, right? So this quote, he says, "I have no hesitation in saying that world peace could be achieved and made permanent if reared on Rotary's firm foundation of friendliness, tolerance, and usefulness." So those are things that sort of reflect what he did next, and that was to set us up with the four-way test. So the four-way test, so these are the foundational core beliefs that Rotary has, right? That we're going to value truth, we're going to value fairness, we're going to value relationships in terms of having goodwill and better friendships, and we're going to make sure that it's beneficial to all of us. And then also, you know, service above self, where the focus is really on the benefit of the group and not so much just, you know, your self benefit. So this is the mo'oku auhau of Rotary, right? This is what has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. And so when we go back from our Rotary lineage, it all goes back to Paul Harris, right? Just like for me, my genealogy on my Hawaiian side, it goes all the way back to Kamehameha the First and beyond that. Okay, so these foundational, the foundations that we have are important because they dictate what our core beliefs are going to be. Okay, so the mo'oku auhau for Native Hawaiians, all right, is based on three kind of basic things, right? So this picture up on the left is kind of like ethereal type of picture. Is that the Hawaiians believe, right, that there is a power greater than us that dictates a lot of things. And, you know, in our conventional world, we call that God, right? God or higher power, whatever that might be, right? So they believed in that. Okay, this picture over on the right-hand side is a typical ahupua'a, right? So the ahupua'a is a land division, and what the Hawaiians understood is that there were divisions of land that produced certain things and that did certain things, right? So like the ocean, the moana, you could go in there and you could fish within the moana. The kahakai, which is the beach part, you could collect limu. You know, that was a place where they could do certain kinds of things near the water. So part of that that whole belief is that if you work together and understood how nature set out things, that you could follow along. Now, part of what the Aupua'a does is it tells us that the Native Hawaiians believe that there was a certain order and protocol of things, right? And so this order and protocol is called pono, right? So you hear that word a lot, right? Oh, that's pono, or that's not pono, or eola pono. You hear that word a lot. And so what pono really means is that it means that there's an order and a protocol and a like a set sequence of things, right? And that our job, and this is the third thing, our job is basically to understand, respect that order, and to follow it as close as we can, through our the daily actions and the things that we do all the time. So these things, these foundations, they're called the kahua. Kahua, that's your next Hawaiian word of the day. Kahua, not kalua, it's kahua. And kahua basically means it's the seed, right? And so the hua is the seed. And it gets planted in the ground, and then, through different stages of growth, the Hawaiians recognize those stages of growth. And so within the kahua, those foundational beliefs, and there's plenty of them, right? But I've just narrowed it down to 4 of them that I think are pertinent, that we can use today in terms of developing our leadership style, and how that correlates with what Rotary espouses. Okay, so the kahua these are the foundations of what we believe, and then our belief, of course, dictates how we behave. And so the Native Hawaiian foundations of leadership are really about the things you believe dictate the way in which you behave. Okay, so the next thing, and these are 4 things, and some of these I've talked about already. And the first one is ho'ihi, right? And ho'ihi is respect, right? And so look around in the way in which we live in our state, right? So ho'ihi means really, respect means, and the other Hawaiian word our native speakers use is vai, which is to give value, right? And so take a look at the way in which we value kupuna, right? Our elders, right? I mean, you go to the store and there's kupuna shopping times, which of course, I'm always paying attention to, because that's when I go shop. Okay, we give value to our aina, to our land. All right, we give value to each other, right? We give value to people's thoughts and beliefs. We give value to traditions, and we give value to history. So one of the things that my grandmother taught me as a little kid, and she didn't really speak hardly any English, is that if you don't have respect, you don't really have anything. That the core, the keystone of every indigenous culture is respect. And if we don't have that, it's really difficult to put any other things in place if you don't respect it. So that's the first value, is respect. So the second thing, and this is to explain a word that everybody sort of hears out there, is Kuleana, right? So Kuleana, as I grew up, I thought my Kuleana was to, get up, fix my bed, feed my dog, brush my teeth, take out the garbage. So I learned it growing up as, what's my responsibilities, right? So these are your chores. I mean, I thought Kuleana actually, when I grew up, meant chores, the things that I had to do. Well, as I grew older, then my grandma explained to me that there's Kuleana, these little chores that you have to do. And then there's ko'u Kuleana. Now, ko'u Kuleana is the responsibility that's passed to us from generations before us, right? So like our ancestors understood pono, right? They understood that there was a set order and protocol of things, right? And that set order and protocol of things defined where we stand today as individuals, right? So I had one of my friends visiting me from the mainland, and he had read a bunch of articles before he showed up, and so he was saying, so what's this, Malama the Aina thing, why are Native Hawaiians so obsessed with with the land? And so I explained to him, and it's because we see the land as we see the land in a hierarchy that's higher than us, right? And so how it goes basically, right? So the Hawaiians look at it, there's Keakua, there's God at the top, right? And then there's Aumakua, which are our personal gods, like the demigods, right? All right. And then right under that, there's the Aina, right? And then after the Aina, there's um, uh, the food, basically, Kekalo, and then there's us under that. Kekanaka is under that. So in the order of importance, we're down there at fifth. So they value the land because how they see it, and this makes sense, of course, right? Is that no more land, no more us, right? No more food, no more us. So all of it is in a particular order, and that's why the land is so valuable in terms of how the Hawaiians perceive things. Okay, and so our Kuleana, our responsibility that's passed down from generational responsibility, is to show respect for all things, right? And then to understand, here's another word there, pilina. And so pilina is the connection of all things. So I don't know if you guys study or understand the whole concept of metaphysics, right? That there's a world that's bigger than the physical world that we see, where the Hawaiians really believe that. I mean, they believe that every single thing had a life and an energy in it. So that's why, you need to be respectful, of the rocks, of the trees, of the fish, of the mountains, of the rain, because they believe that all of that had an energy, and that energy is the thing that connects all of us together. So they see that, like me, who was born here in Hawaii, I'm connected to somebody like Anka, who was born in Europe, because when you break it down to its very basis, it's the same stuff that connects all of us. All right. And then we have a responsibility to a concept that's called kava mamua, and you can see that here. All right, so kava mamua is the belief that our ancestors are not behind us; they're actually in front of us, right? They're in front of us. So my grandfather, who died 60 something years ago, he's actually in front of us, in front of me, clearing the way so that I can achieve certain things. So why is that important? It's important because we're in front of the people, our children, our grandkids, our great grandkids, generations that we haven't seen. We're here now to basically pave the way for them, to open up opportunities, to teach them important things in terms of taking care of our land, taking care of all the things that are important to us, preserving our values, that kind of thing. So that's what kava mamua is about, is always envisioning that our ancestors are in front of us and not behind us. And then the other Kuleana, the big Kuleana, is that we have a Kuleana to aloha. And I'm going to have a short little talk about this at the district conference in a couple of weeks, and to talk about where aloha comes from, because in the Hawaiian state of mind, everything comes from that, right? So I won't get into it too much, but their belief is that it all originates from ha, right? The ha is the breath, right? And so the three components there's ha, the breath, there's vai, the water. So that's why, everybody got all the Native Hawaiians got really up in arms about the whole Red Hill thing. And it's about one of their foundational beliefs is ola ikavai, is that we live for that or from that water, right? And then the other piece of it is the E, right? And the E is our spiritual, right? And so when you put those together, the ha, the vai, and the E, so what does that sound like to you? Ha, vai, E. So we all come from that. And so aloha, so serving with aloha, one of the points I'm going to make, it's not just about, it's not just about it's a good idea. It's something that's our kuleana that's passed down to us generationally. And so that is something that we need to do as part of our responsibility, not just because it's a good idea. Okay, let me get over here. Okay. All right, so this one is kupumai. So kupumau, excuse me. So remember I was talking to you about that kahua is the seed, right? And so you put the seed in the ground, and then when that seed sprouts up, that little thing that sprouts out of the ground, that's the kupu. Okay, and the kupu is like the sprout. All right, so what the Hawaiians see is that if you're always growing, if those sprouts are always coming, and then Mao means, forever, onward, right? So kupu Mao means basically we're always learning. Now we're part of a culture over here that values learning, right? All kinds of things, and the Hawaiians were really observant people, right? So part of the reason we got to Hawaii is that down in Polynesia, where our native Hawaiians came from, they noticed these birds that were flying out there into the ocean for months at a time and came back. So that determined, or to them, they figured out there must be something out there. So that observation allowed them to have the belief that there was something out there, because where would these birds be going? So they launched these huge double hull canoes. In fact, a couple of them are out there in the ocean right now, sailing over to Tahiti. So all of this learning is based on sustainability. And so Hawaiians were, it's kind of funny now that, sustainability is such a huge word. So people are coming from all over the world to study how the native Hawaiians were able to sustain a culture when they were 2,500 miles out in the middle of the ocean. And they had no electricity, transportation, communication, refrigeration, none of that. And they had one of the most sustainable societies in the world. Okay, and then so one more concept I want to talk about is kahiao, right? And so kahiao is really to generously give with no expectation of return, and that's a value that we live like that in Hawaii today. Think about your friends, the people that you work with. They come, they bring donuts for the group, whatever. They're not sitting there expecting they're going to get credit for that, right? They give because that's part of who they are. That's part of the cultural stuff that we learn. And then the last point is that that we all come from different kahua, different kind of backgrounds, right? And so these backgrounds dictate what we're going to teach going forward. So that's an important point. And then this is one that we've talked about a lot, and that's Lau Lima. So Lau means many, Lima means hands, basically. And so basically understanding that we do better if we work together as a group, right? So the people that were in the Ahupua'a, right, they understood that that it was easier that if they broke up in groups and each group took a particular ecostrata. So like the guys that were at the ocean, they caught the fish and they shared it with the guys that were farming in the plains. And those guys that were farming in the plains shared all their food with the guys that were in the uplands, that were growing the trees that they could use for the building. So everybody worked together as a unit to help achieve something that was going to be beneficial to everybody, right? And so so that's the important piece about La Lima, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through it. Okay, so these foundations, right, that I just talked about, they create a lifestyle in Hawaii, right? And so this is the kind of lifestyle we have where, you go to somebody's house, you take your slippers off before you go in, right? I go into a restaurant and somebody comes up to me, the waitress comes up to me, usually some young girl, and she says, "Uncle, what can I get you?" Right? What can I get you? Because she's showing respect for me, right? We get to a four-way stop and we wave people on. I mean, that I know that irritates people who are impatient, but we wave people on because that's the lifestyle we have. Because we work together as a group, we respect each other. We don't, we feel like it's rude to impose on people. So that creates a lifestyle that we live in Hawaii. Okay, now, so if you're a Rotarian and you're in Hawaii, which everybody in this group is on, right? So we have Rotary values, right? So we have truth, fairness, goodwill, friendships, it has to be beneficial to all, and we do service above self, right? So if you meld those together with our our local kahua, our local lifestyle foundations, where we respect everybody, we respect and we care for people, right? We have a sense of responsibility about our traditions and the things that we care about, that we're always learning, that we work together to benefit all of us, and that we have the sense that we're all connected, and that we understand that everything comes from aloha, right? So this is our kahua, what we believe in our district, and that's how we basically operate. Okay, so this lifestyle, it's not a race-based thing, right? Right. So when Paul Harris set up Rotary, he didn't say like, okay, this will only work if you're a white guy from the Midwest. No, he made it open to everybody. And it's the same thing with Native Hawaiian culture, right? So people ask me, well, I'm not Hawaiian, so I don't really feel like you're part of it. Well, it's not about having Hawaiian blood in you, right? It's about respecting and understanding the culture that we have here, and then making the conscious choice to live that culture, right? So it's really about the way in which we live, and it's about your beliefs dictate the way in which you behave, right? And so that's the important thing. And so I would highly recommend to everybody that if you're not Hawaiian, it doesn't have anything to do with that. Whether you were raised here, if you're raised here, that's super good. But if you just arrived yesterday, and if you look at our lifestyle and the way that we operate here, and you believe it, and you respect it, and you make the choice to live it, that's the kahua. Those are the foundations that are going to dictate in the way in which we operate. So my belief is that, these foundations that Rotary has, and then these foundations that we have as people who live in Hawaii, when we meld those together, it's a unique situation that can help us grow Rotary, can help us develop leaders, can help us accomplish things within our community, because people understand what we're doing. So now, so here's our little breakout group assignment. So Naomi's going to break you up into small groups, probably 4 or 5 people. All right. So how do we use this for leadership, right? So if you're a kahua, your foundations, if they dictate how you're going to lead, then how do you see the people that you lead, right? So how do you communicate with the people that you lead? So how do you mobilize the people that you lead based on the things that I just told you? I mean, just think about the life in which you have right now. I mean, what you're exposed to, the foundations that came from your parents and from living here for whatever amount of time you live here. So how does that dictate the way in which you see the people that you lead? How does it dictate the way in which you communicate with them? And how does it dictate the way in which you can mobilize the people you lead? So I'm gonna have Naomi go ahead and get my thing. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna have Naomi go ahead and break you guys out into small groups, and then you're gonna chat about that for about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll come back, and then I'll share with you some of the observations that I've seen myself and see what you guys come up with. Okay, how's that sound? Okay, thank you. Okay, so go ahead, Naomi, and if I need to go on a group, I'll go on a group too, but not. Oh yeah, Paul's not in a group because he just got here. You can put Paul somewhere. Okay. All right. Yeah, we gotta remember to press that button. Yeah, we kind of like launched out on this thing pretty quickly this morning, so I didn't give Sandy a chance to say anything. But Sandy, if you got any words you would like to share with the group, it's your time now.
Well, thank you, Vincent. I wasn't planning to, but
Yeah,
good
I
morning.
know.
I know,
Yes.
right? This is how we do it, as being flexible and adaptable. But good morning, everyone. I know there's other places you could be bright and early on a Saturday morning. We're so glad to have you here with us. And this is really a good topic, because the theme this year, to serve with aloha, it all kind of ties together of the spirit with which we serve. Yeah, whether it has cultural implications, or we were just talking in our work, in our breakout group, about how there are givers and there are takers, and how that affects what we do and how we do things. So anyway, I'm just happy to be here with you folks. So thank you for the time, Vince.
Yeah, no worries. Anytime. So what I want to do is go ahead, Naomi.
I was wondering if we could have Randy say hello too.
Yeah, I was going to ask Randy, would you like to say hello?
Sure, if I can get off of mute.
Yeah.
I like Sandy. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. This morning, because obviously there's a million other things that we could be doing, and I actually have to scoot about 10 o'clock for another commitment. I think these training sessions are just so valuable to the district. And it just speaks very, very highly of all the folks that have tuned in. So thank you. And back to you, Benson.
Okay. Yeah,
Hey,
appreciate
Benson.
that, Randy. Thanks. Yes.
Can everybody say hello to Joni Henderson? So Joni's going to be
Hi,
the
Joni.
president. She's the president-elect for Kapolei. So hi, Joni.
Hi.
Hey, Joni.
Hi, Joni.
Hi, Joni.
Yeah, and Joni, if you could, after we close the meeting, if you have a couple of minutes to stay on, you're going to get your own personal version of pets. I mean, not today, but we're going to figure out how we're going to do that. So, okay, that sounds good. So here's what I want to do: take a few minutes and let you guys chat a little bit about what you heard and what you discussed in your group. So we have a really experienced, pretty astute group of people right here. So I'm just going to launch out and ask you what your thoughts are. So Murray, I'm gonna start with you. So what was your thoughts about what we were talking about in the breakout rooms, and then what you saw today? Got to get that mute button, man. I wish there was a way we could unmute people, but we don't.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
We're good.
This is,
I gotcha.
well, our group was talking about kahiao, to give without expectation of return.
Right.
And that's easy to do when everybody in your cultural group lives the same way. But like in my case, I lived in different cultures and different countries, and some of those have absolutely no idea of giving something freely without the idea of no return. You're always given something and then you expect to return. So my question to our community, our little group was, well, how do you deal with that? When you're in a culture, you're doing a Rotary project in that culture, or you're in that culture. How do you deal with that culture, the people in that culture, when they have absolutely no idea of how to give something freely without expecting anything in return?
Okay, who wants to field that? Who wants to field that question? Who's lived in a different culture that would like to respond to that? Anybody? Sandra, go ahead. Unmute yourself and give us your thought on that.
Yeah, I grew up in Chicago. So a lot of what we dealt with was, you give something, you expect something in return. And that's just how it was. And it was a really rough area where we grew up at. But I'm a giver. I've always been a giver. I give of my time, I give of my service, and I give of money, whatever was needed. That's what we did. And I will continue to give. It's who I am. I give in anything I can that will help and benefit someone else. And I think that that is my solution to that. I would tell anyone, keep giving, give of yourself, give of your time, and that person will become a giver as well. And if you share in that, that person will see your true self. And if you're a giver, they will become a giver. The more time you give to a person, the better that person is. And they'll let their true self show. So, you know, I've been in the medical field since I was 17 years old. And I've been a caregiver my whole life. And the more I work with people, the more I see them turning to become good people. So that's my answer, is just be true to your heart, and that person will become givers as well.
Thanks, Sandra. So one of the things that correlates Rotary values and our local values, right, is that there's less focus on self, right? So in Rotary, we say service before self, right? And then in our local values, we have stuff like kahiao, right? Like give without any sense of return, or we just give, like, you know, one of the foundations I was raised with is that, you know, you go to somebody's house, you bring something, right? And you're not saying like, well, I brought something, so what am I going to get for that cake I just brought you guys?
Mm-hmm.
You just bring it because it's the right thing to do, because part of our culture dictates that you share, right? You know, so anybody want to comment on that? We got a few more minutes to kind of talk about this. What about you, Alan Kusunoki over there, who went to the Peace Corps because he wanted to give to the world? Talk about your thoughts about that, Alan. Where did you go? Oh, okay. Oh, Al, you want to unmute? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Sort of hit the wrong button, I think, but I'm not sure. Yeah, you know, like Murray, I mean, you know, I've lived in so many different cultures. It all kind of blends together, you know, in a way, you know. We're all human beings, and we, like you started out, our whole upbringing creates the person that we are today. And you know, I can't change myself very much from the real basics of what I grew up with. You know, in Japanese culture, you know, like you say about bringing gifts, omiyage is now a part of the local culture. I mean, that's just, it's just the way I grew up. My grandparents, my parents, and we have to appreciate the fact that that's our self. That's who we are. I like everything that you talked about earlier, where, you know, the ancestors are ahead of us. They are. They're kind of paving the way for us, as they did before they passed. Anyway, turn it back to you.
Okay. All right. So let me share this last slide with you again. We're going to kind of wrap it up. So basically, the whole idea is, what does this have to do with your ability to lead or your leadership style? Okay. And so this is basically what it comes out to be, right? When you meld Rotary values together with our local values, you come up with this, right? You come up with treating each other as family. So that's where we get this whole ohana thing, right? So, people come to Hawaii and they go like, oh, what's this Ohana thing? And it says, well, because we look at each other as kind of a family. And so we treat each other. So you can imagine now, if you go to your club, now you're the club president or a board chair or whatever, and you start looking at people in your club, not just as members, but now these are part of your family, right? So this is your uncle, this is your sister, this is your mom, this is your dad, this is your brother. All right. Now, if you're like my family, you don't always get along, but at the end of the day, you're the family, right? And so you're going to work together. You're always going to try to be respectful to each other and your family. You work together as a group, right? Our culture dictates that. That's why it's really, really exciting to me when I get together and I see 3 or 4 clubs coming together to do a service project. I see 3 or 4 clubs getting together to do their installation of new officers. I see 3 or 4 clubs getting together to plan a big service project somewhere, an overseas project. That's the kind of cultural influence that we grew up with here that should translate really easily into Rotary. Okay, respecting the ideas and beliefs of others. All right, so now, so Rotary's come down with, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that whole DEI thing. Hey, we were raised on that, right? My dad said, hey, you don't have to agree with Mr. Nakamoto next door, but you need to respect him and his ideas and his thoughts and his beliefs. All right, great. And so I was raised like that. So when the whole, diversity, equity, and inclusion thing came down, I said, wow, we've been living this our whole life over here. All right, so our love and care of our land. So it's no surprise that when Rotary added on that 7th area of focus, it was in the environment. And we've been doing that over here for 5,000 years. Where we look at, man, no more land, no more us, right? And so that's the basic Native Hawaiian belief, right? No land, no us. We have to take care of the land so we can survive too. But it's all part of this whole pono, this whole system and protocol that has a specific order, and our job is just to follow that, right? As I mentioned earlier, less focus on self and benefit for the community, right? So when you take something or you give something freely without expectation of return, that's somebody who's not really focused on themselves. They're like, hey, I'm going to bring something to the party so everybody can eat, not just me, everybody can eat. That's why it's always was bizarre to me when I went to the mainland, right? And we would have kind of a get together. Everybody would just bring food for themselves. Me, I would bring food for everybody. And they're like, well, how come you brought so much food? I said, because I was raised like that. I don't come over here and just bring one sandwich for myself. I mean, I'm gonna bring a whole pot of stew because that was the kahua, that's the foundations in which I was raised in, right? And then the last thing is that understanding that this living with aloha and serving with aloha, that's not just a good theme. That's our primary kuleana. That's our responsibility, because in the Native Hawaiian culture, it all comes from aloha. Everything starts from there. And with no aloha, we don't have anything from there. So anyway, hey, that's my message for today. And now we're gonna just take a few minute break unless anybody has any questions, comments, anything you want to ask here before we kind of wind up this section. I'm gonna turn it over to Naomi.
Hey, Benson, this is Alan.
Yes, Alan,
Hey,
my man,
aloha.
how are you? Aloha.
Real quick comment. One of the thoughts that ran through my brain as you're talking about working together between cultures is that oftentimes we don't spend enough time trying to understand the goodness in another culture. We identify the differences and we say, well, that's why I don't agree, or I'm not part of that culture, or whatever. When my friend in Waianae taught me the word ka'anani'au, he explained to me that, it's a measurement of time by not looking at your watch, but looking at trees, a boulder on the side of the hill, the sky moving across, or somebody celebrating something. They said that those measure time too. And that brought, it just made time look so different. It became colorful, enjoyable, and wonderful instead of numbers on my Apple Watch,
Yeah.
So anyway, just a comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's just like Hawaiians don't have a word for weather. Like my grandfather, he would never, he'd look outside and if it's sunny, then he go fish, and if it's rainy, then he go and work in the taro patch. So he wasn't like, oh man, it's raining today, I had all these plans or whatever, right? You just take whatever nature gives you and then you go with that, right? So okay, well, thanks a lot. We're gonna take about a 4-minute break. It's 9:56 now, and then we're gonna come back and Naomi's gonna talk more about communication. Okay, so let's come back in about 4 minutes, and I guess I'll pause the recording, Naomi.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about communication now, and effective communication is the path to success. So who puts out tangerines at the beginning of the year for New Year's? Anybody? Okay,
So yeah, definitely.
okay, so it's a symbol, right, of good luck and success. And I just thought this is a nice picture, so I wanted to start with that. But when you're a leader, okay, you take responsibility for not only yourself. So Benson was saying, you think about your members, your family, the members of the families of your members also, and your guests. So when you're the leader, you take all of that into consideration. So when you look at an effective club, and we did that Vibrant Club workshop, right? You have 4 pillars, and the pillars are the membership, the projects, the foundation, and developing leaders beyond the club level. So if you think of the leadership plan, the plan does include the communication plan as well, because communication is one of the key things that you need to get things done. So having this information and your positive Rotary experience will help you in this journey. Okay, so what is effective communication and leadership? And so strategic plans include this communication plan. And when you adapt to the situations, you think about how to communicate with people, because not everybody does the same thing. It's not one size fits all. Well, sometimes you need to do that, if you have limited resources or time. But if you think about your club members, how do they want to receive communication? When we blast out a message from the district, we know that not everybody's going to open that email and read that. So we need to adapt to the situation, to your members, and need to find out how they want to be receiving that information. But with today's digital world, it's so much easier to do emails and Facebook and group emails and texts. And so engaging members on how they want to get that communication is something that we need to consider as well as a leader. So people not attending meetings, people who are not engaged, how do you reach out to them? How do you communicate with them? So that's part of that priority for the action plan on engagement. But social media really has helped us to get the word out to other people. And when people see what you're doing in your community, they want to be part of your journey about helping people and being of service to the community. So you need to look at your websites, your social posts, and see how people are receiving that information. So planning ahead is something that you might want to consider. What is the message that you want to get across? How do you execute that message? Is it your body language, the tone of voice, the style of that communication? So if it's a really important message, you might want to script it out. You might want to practice in front of the mirror and see, because if it's a really important communication and you only have one shot to do it, you want to do it right. So now that we know what is effective, let's think about, okay, what we need to do. So how do you keep, chime in, how do you keep members informed and engaged? Anybody?
Emails, club
Email.
meetings,
Mm-hmm.
club meetings.
Yep.
Instagram.
It's, mm-hmm.
Oh, I called them up too.
I've been making phone calls
Telephone.
because I want to speak to them, but I also want to hear what they say.
Ah, yeah, right. That's the feedback side. So all these different ways to communicate with people are important because it depends on how you want to get your message across and what you want to accomplish with that engagement. Because we get so many emails nowadays, and sometimes it goes automatically to spam. So you might want to follow up with some emails. So when you think about that, on the way that you communicate, think about how you can improve it. How can you get more people to read your emails or more people to respond to you? Sending emails out, there's a rhyme and rhythm to it. So for instance, if you send out an email on Friday night, people might look at it because maybe they only look at emails on weekends, but sometimes they're going into weekend mode and they're not going to read any emails. So maybe an important email should go out Monday morning. Okay, so think about how you communicate and how you can improve it. And then how often do you update your website? Okay, anybody? How often do you update it?
At least every week.
Oh, okay, good.
And we send out a Friends of Rotary newsletter every week when we do our update.
Great.
Weekly thing to our club as well.
That's good to have outsiders read your newsletters as well, because then they can see what you're doing. And there's certain people who don't want to join because they don't have the time or whatever, but they want to keep up with what you're doing. Good. Yeah. Anybody else on websites? How often do you update it? Okay. Hey, by the way, we're going to have Club Runner do a webinar on web design. So if you want to get some ideas of how to change up your themes, how your homepage looks, or how to update your website, it's on June 18th at 9:00 on Saturday. Is that a Saturday? Okay, it's a Saturday. So when you think about your communication style, all of the time you should be grounded in what our values are, our core values. And as long as you are thinking about the core values of Rotary and the 4-way test, you can't go wrong. So with the core values that we've had since 1905, fellowship, integrity, diversity, service, and leadership, consider these things as your foundation when you do communicate. So what are some effective communication skills? You listen, you're empathetic, you want to see their point of view. And so that's why, calling someone to see what their response is a good thing, to see their point of view, to hear what they're saying. Use words of encouragement, appreciation, and praise to help them feel welcome. Sometimes it's just that phone call, that touch point that will make them feel help them feel connected to you. And that's all the things that they need, is to feel that they're engaged. So when you communicate a message, you need to sometimes draw a picture. Sometimes you need to really put color into your message so they can understand. You want whatever is in your head, the message in your head, to come across and be in their head, so they're seeing that same image. So how do you do that? We're going to do this exercise. So I need 5 volunteers. Okay, 5 volunteers. So raise your digital hand so you can get to the top of the screen, and we're going to play a game where you're going to listen to what people say. You're going to add on to what the person in front of you said, and say one sentence. So it's going to be that you're at a project. Okay, your club is at a project, and somebody comes and say, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And you tell them it's a service project, and they go, "What's Rotary?" Okay, and so there are 5 people that are in this crowd, and you're each going to have a sentence to say what is Rotary. Okay, so raise your digital hand so you can get to the top of the screen. Yes, thank you, David. Raise your digital hand. Okay, thank you, Connie. Alan, okay, 3 more people. I know, David, you're trying to raise your hand, right? Alan, okay, Paul, raise your hand. Roz, your digital hand, you got to go to reaction. Thank you, Joni. Okay, come on, 2 more people. Roz. Okay, Alita, awesome. And Sandy, okay. So you guys are at a project, okay, and somebody comes who doesn't know anything and they're asking you, what is Rotary? So you got 1 sentence, and then, so Connie, you're gonna start 1 sentence, okay? And then it's going to Alan, and Alan, you're gonna say, yes, and you're gonna put 1 more sentence after. So this is the listening skill where you're listening to what people are saying and you're adding to the story that you're trying to put into that person's head. Okay, Connie.
Gosh, we are an international organization that, and it's a service organization, and our motto is service above self.
And we do good in the world.
Joni?
And we work in our local communities to help local people.
Alita?
And as a new member, it's been a real joy to get to know other people who are like-minded and interested in supporting and helping our communities.
And Sandy, you're going to come in for the kill, right? You're going to hook them in and say, yeah, do you want to join? Right, Sandy?
She's on mute. You're on mute, Sandy.
Oh man, you missed my speech. Yep, this is when we come in and let them know you are the perfect person for this. You're a true Rotarian at heart. Come and join us. Huh?
Yep. Thank you. So you're painting that picture in someone's head and you're listening to what people are saying and you're adding on to the story. But when you do that speech, you want to hook them in right at the end. Okay. Questions about that? No. Okay. So let's get back to the slide. Okay. So, that effective communication is really important about how to get that message across. So when you have your styles, the different styles, the way that you communicate, the way that you communicate to a child is different from when you're talking to an adult volunteer. So think about the style that you have and think about the situations why this one style might be better than the next. So an analytical style, you use unemotional, logical thing based on facts and data. And so when would you use that? Maybe you're going to use that in a situation where you're trying to get feedback and you don't want to influence people. You're just giving them facts, just the facts, ma'am. And you're giving them all of the reasons or the data to make that decision on the response that you want. Intuitive, it's the overall topic and details. And sometimes when you have a board meeting, you want to do this because you need to move things along. You need to just hit the points and get through the business at your board meetings. Functional is you're looking at the process and details. And so that's what you might do when you're planning a project. You're having a planning meeting. You're going through the details and think it out. Nicole, when Nicole is with the group and they're thinking about how we're going to plan this event on May 20 for youth service, it's okay. So what are the little details that we need to think about? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? What about that? And it's that group of minds put together that can come up with the details and make that plan good. So it's good to have committees because then you have more brains and you can have feedback, and then it's a development opportunity to develop leaders as well. And so personal styles, which is bringing the emotional thing and listening. Sometimes you just gotta listen, let people talk, and that's what's going to make them feel better because they talk, and maybe you don't say anything, but they're going to feel better. So think about the situation and what kind of style you would use. What style would be the best in that situation? Okay. So when you use these styles, you want individuals to use their talent to get things done. So you want to know what your outcome is, what your goal is, and then be aware of how you want to communicate this. So if you're leading a committee and you want something to happen, what is it, what style would you use in order to make something happen? Okay, so what would you use? So Connie, when you're leading your club and you want membership to happen, what style would you use?
Probably personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want them to engage, you want them to develop some kind of passion for the club, for our projects, for the other members.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and they're volunteers, right? So you want them to make them feel good that they're doing something, and but you want to get that your image of what you want done into their mind so they understand. You have a meeting of the mind so they understand where you're going. So if you want to influence others, so if you want to influence someone to join the club, so what kind of style would you use for that one? Beverly.
I'm sorry, Naomi, your question was what type of style would I use in what situation?
So you're influencing someone to join your club. So
am I influencing someone to join the club? First of all, I want to find out exactly why they would want to be joining the club so that I can key in, I can just zoom in on the reason that they've given me, and I can explain to them some of the things as to how that would fit with what we do as Rotary. So I think that is more of an analytical thing. I want to analyze them to really find out what they are interested in so I can go right to that point.
Yeah, so sometimes you need to use different styles depending on the situation and what you want to do, what the goal is. So analyzing the situation is always a good thing, because if you don't analyze, you don't know how to approach them, what style to use, and get things, get that image into their head. So building strong relationships. So you have people who are in your club that haven't done things in a while, but you want to keep them engaged. How would you build that strong relationship with people who are kind of fading out and on the fence about leaving?
I would say probably personal communications. This is Dave Monstern. Personal communications, reaching out to them personally, finding out what's happening in their life, finding out what's motivating them to stay in Rotary, and what would need to be done to keep them in Rotary. Alan, I hope you don't mind, but when our last discussion, Alan talked about the fact that sometimes we feel as elderly people within Rotary that we're kind of left out because a lot of emphasis is being pushed onto trying to get younger members. And so how do we keep our elderly people, our kapuna, more involved with Rotary and finding tasks that they can do that aren't as strenuous so that they could still participate? And so I think part of that is a personal communications, to reach out to those people and find out what's important.
Yeah. Yeah, that bonding with people is really important to make them feel that they're part of your group, and it's that relationship that's going to keep them there. So even if they're not really active, it's that bond, that personal relationship, that connection that would keep them there. So use your talent and what you learn about communication to develop these skills and be aware of what the strengths and weaknesses are of people. So how do you improve your communication? So Beverly said, analyzing the situation. So you observe the culture of your audience. So what is your audience like? Are they hostile? Are they defensive? Sometimes in clubs, you have people that are really defensive, and so they're negative. So you want to build that culture and see what are the weaknesses and how can we get people together? How can we mend and do some ho'oponopono so that we can get people on the same page and be a family again. So practice your listening skills, have a two-way dialogue of getting feedback, getting new ideas, and using different channels to communicate, because people do want to see different ways to learn, to receive messages. And then tailor your message to the audience, get your point across in a clear message. And then think about the tone of your message. So when you look at an organizational chart, so I'll show you Randy's organizational chart. And you can see this chart is kind of overwhelming, but when you think about what the clubs need and how we can communicate back and forth and just hear what they need and how we can help them, you need to have a really good plan. We need to have a communication plan on when information goes out, how to look at what is important to get out there, okay? And in order to build this organization or your club, that communication plan is really important. Okay, so when you go on your leadership journey, we have some things that you can get up to the next level. So we have the District Leadership Academy, which is going to be starting up in August, 8 sessions. And we have information on the 201 level. Kind of, you have the basics already. How do you get to the next level in your leadership journey? And then we have district governors. If you've gotten through the 201 and now you want to lead everybody, because this is such an amazing organization. We have the district governor applications that are the period to submit one is coming up pretty soon. And we have interviews in November. Okay, so getting your Rotary IQ, as Benson puts it, through the Learning Center is something that you really would like to get into, because they have so many good courses that you can take on leadership, on communication, on public speaking, how to lead your club. So please, I encourage you, if you haven't already, go to the Learning Center on the Rotary.org website. Okay, so think about tangerines for your leadership journey. Thank you, everybody. Questions?
Naomi, just a comment.
Yep.
In about 3 days ago, when I was flying back from Oahu, and I sat next to 2 strangers, and one of the things that I picked up on my resolution is to meet a stranger every day. So I met 2 of them. But in the conversation, the husband asked me, "What is Rotary?" And it was fortunate that I had spent a lot of time trying to distill our Rotary vision. And, because when I look at a vision, I think of it as being something that's rallying, that it's simple, that anybody can remember and say it to somebody else. But I think most of us, I'll take a chance and say maybe 1 or 2 people in this group here can recite it from memory. And the vision goes together. We see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities and in ourselves. I don't know if too many people can remember all of that, but I try to distill that down. And interestingly, it comes back to what Paul Harris started off with, doing good in the world. That's it. And I can remember doing good in the world. And so I told the guy, we do good in the world. And he really latched on to that. He started to ask me a whole bunch of questions and made me realize that I wasn't trying to get the guy into my club. I wanted him to get into Rotary. There's a big difference here. When you talk to somebody who's trying to, you're thinking about getting into a club, you have very biased thinking. But if you talk to them about joining Rotary, becoming a Rotarian, your thinking is a lot more open and more, you communicate better. Anyway, I left him with doing good in the world, and I led him to the Pahoa club that he possibly would want to join if he decides that after he retires. So I just wanted to make that comment that we need to distill a lot of our verbiage to where people can understand it reading it one time. Not that they got to read it over and over and over and say, okay, what is this thing all about? We need to do that. And too often, I think we continue to try to impress people with our writing instead of expressing exactly what we're trying to communicate. And I know we still seem to feel that if you don't understand me, it's your fault. And it's not. It's the communicator's fault that another person can understand. So I've embraced a lot of these things, and it was a wonderful experience. It made my day to talk to him about Rotary in a very simple way, and to see his reaction and interest in joining Rotary in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. You're #1 ambassador. But that's right. Thinking about how that person is receiving your information, and we got to be careful not to have any jargon that we know, but they might not know. Joni, did you have something?
No.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'd like to say, Alan, I like that you kept it simple, and it actually spurred conversations. It kind of created the ability for that person to want to ask more questions. Sometimes I think we're more verbose with our comments on things, and it doesn't allow the person to open up dialogue. So great job.
So
I had a
Naomi,
feeling that maybe in the next hour he'll meet somebody else who might ask him, "What is that Rotary thing?" And by remembering doing good in the world, he got it right there.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to spread. I hope maybe the Rotary vision will go back to Paul Harris's initial intent, doing good in the world, instead of, I don't know how many, there's about 15, 16, 20 words there. And it's not easy to remember. It has to be rallying, simple, that anybody can understand. That's the way I look at visioning. And it's not trying to create a complex thing that nobody remembers.
and you're practicing kahua, planting seeds for the future.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're right.
Very good.
very true. Very,
That's
very
awesome.
true.
That's awesome.
Going
You're
back
right,
to
Alan.
Benson's thing, yeah.
To
Yeah.
keep it simple. So that means that we want to keep out, not use Rotary acronyms when we talk to people that are not in Rotary.
Yep.
Right.
Alita?
The acronyms that we use in Rotary,
Yeah.
we don't want to use those acronyms when we talk to somebody that's not yet in Rotary.
Yeah, that's one of the dangers, going back to you, Benson, is that oftentimes we try to take aloha and make it into an acronym. And I think it takes away from what it is. People forget, and they say A is for this, L is for this, O is for this, that kind of thing. And it dilutes the whole meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Okay, A is for Alita.
Thank you. I had a question about so I'm new, and so when people ask me, "Oh, what is Rotary?" I kind of fumble sometimes because I don't know what to say. And I mentioned that I'm in the Kaneohe Club, even though I live in Kamiki, but I they're like, "Oh, somebody invited me to this club or that club," and I don't know what to say about the individual clubs. And I was wondering if somebody could talk about that. Can somebody who lives in Honolulu be a member of the Waianae Club or whatever?
Yeah. I think, yeah, I think Alan's suggestion in saying something really simple gets the conversation to go further. So, so when people ask me what is Rotary, I take Alan's approach and I just said, hey, we're just people trying to do good in the world. I mean, and then if they say, well, okay, well, what is that? You know, how many clubs, you know, whatever, then you can go into the whole dissertation about what Rotary is. But I think just breaking it down to its simplest form, like Joni said, you start with the kahua, right? The seed, and you just put the seed in there. And then, you know, if they want it to be nurtured more, then, you know, then they kupumau and they just keep going. And so, yeah, simplicity is really good. And I think the more complicated of a response you get, the more complicated their understanding is. So yeah, simplicity is really key. But Alita, if you want to know more about Rotary, I mean, right here, I mean, this group that's on the screen right now, they're probably, when I talk about Rotary IQ, and that's just knowledge about Rotary, super high. So anybody here can help you with that. And if you want to, you know, get together, I'll just can run you through whatever you want to know. So,
You know,
Alita,
Alita.
oh,
Sorry.
yeah. Also, yeah. Oh, Anka had to go. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Joni and then Connie.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Alita, we have people in our club from other places. Either they work in our area and it's convenient for the time for them to meet there. But I also think a comment on different clubs and their focus. Like our focus is literacy, and we work with our schools in our area. And Kaneohe Club may be something different, and so you may be a part of that club because their focus aligns with what you want. And that's all you have to say is, I align with the focus of the club, or whatever your words are, or because I work in that area. But you don't have to make an excuse. Be proud that you're part of that club, and even if you live in Kamiki, there's a
Thank you. That's
reason.
very
But don't,
helpful.
don't make excuses. It's the choice you made. You have every right to make it.
Thank you.
Connie?
Yeah, just tagging on to that. I think all you have to tell them if somebody asks is just say, you know what, we have so many clubs to choose from, and you should go and check out different clubs, see what's the best fit for you. Some people pick clubs because of the day and time that's most convenient for them. Some people just for the focus of interest of that club. And sometimes it's just because you feel good, you know, going to that certain club. So it's a personal preference, and just go check it out. Check out the different ones and find the one best for you, because there is one that is perfect for you. And that's all you got to say, and let them make the decision.
Yep. You know, each club has its own culture, its own flavor. And so it is that fit that Connie's talking about that people need to look at. And what is that fit? So it could be a cause. So the Eco Club is looking at the environment, but it could be just that you like the people there. You know, that's as simple as that, right? Okay, it's that connection, that bonding.
And I think sometimes we do a disservice by pushing people to try to join just our club. Sometimes you have to say, you know, it's important for you to see the other clubs, to find out what personalities work for you and what projects they do that really float your boat, because that's what's going to really get them to be passionate and stay with that club. So, you know, encourage them to go, you know, come to visit your club, but also encourage them to go visit other clubs.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
I gotta say, I'm so impressed with Alita, because she's a new member and she's giving up her Saturday morning, and she's contributing to and engaging. So man, I wish we had more members like you in our club. You can come to Hilo anytime if you want. Oh, sorry, Sandy.
Yeah, no.
Anytime we'll take you.
I'm just curious. Thank you. Thank you for letting me join. I've learned a lot. I like learning.
Yeah, I want to add on to what Connie was just saying. You know, the thing about Rotarians, and those of you who have been outside of Hawaii and connected with Rotarians everywhere is that Rotarians have a certain mentality, right? And their mentality is that they're prone already, or they're conditioned in their mind that, hey, I'm in a service organization, and so it's not really about me. So, that's why, like, for me, I mean, I haven't been a Rotarian for decades, but the value I see in Rotary is yeah, I mean, it's great, all the stuff that we do, but it's really in the relationships that you forge over these years, because I'm like, kupuna status, so I can go early and get the discount. But I'm at a stage in my life where, the people that I'm associated with, I see these people, I'm going to go with these people to the end of my life. And that's to me, the real value of Rotary. I mean, all the projects and stuff that we do, that's awesome. And that's a great reason to want to join when you're young, like Alita. But when you're old, like me, some of us on the screen here, I mean, you join it and you stay in it, because these relationships are valuable, and everybody has that sort of, hey, I'm past that point where it's all about me, point. It's just like, yeah. So anyway, I can go on and on about that, but I think that's one of the things that you see, that you can go to an international convention, some other part of the world, and meet Rotarians from the other side of the planet, and they have the same mentality as you. So that's one of the super valuable things about being in Rotary, is like you can go anywhere and run into a Rotarian, and you have that same basic kahua, those foundations, right? So any rate, hey, fun session today, and I want to thank Sandy. You wanted to say something? Oh, okay, yeah. I see your hand up.
Can I just chime in? Because this is such a lively discussion. And I just wanted to say, well, many people can be in a Rotary Club. It's really all about you and what you do to become a Rotarian, right? And experiences like this to be able to share. But I just want to show how the value of blending in the energy of new members, regardless of how old you are or what your background is, right? With those who have been Rotarians for years is so key. And I'm not ashamed to tell you, and I wish Anka was here. 3.5 years ago, my club came to the table because we thought it was time for me to maybe dissolve. The energy had gone out. We lost a lot of Kupuna members that had been members for decades, and we were slowly dying, right? This year, we have brought in 11 going on 12 brand new members since July. And it just goes to show how the vibrancy can be re-energized with new spirit, with new synergy. And it's a real beautiful thing. So the kinds of discussions that we're having now, it's so key to what we are all about. So I just want to say mahalo. We have the Nicoles and the Alitas that are here joining people like Alan Kusunoki, who's been a Rotarian and Murray for decades, right? But it's the blending that is just so beautiful. And so mahalo, everybody.
Thanks, Sandy. And there are different clubs for different people. And when Nicole is saying, if you've got young people, join her club, it's an E-club and it's a Rotaract club. So Rotaract is from age 18 up to whatever their limit is. There's no upper limit right now, but the Rotaract is like young professionals, and it's a community base. It's not tied to university. So thinking about the value of membership is what club fits. If you've got a club of older people and you're young, sometimes you want to join that club because you can learn from the older people on careers.
Yeah.
But there's also fellowships and action groups that people can join. So even in your club, if you're not getting something out of your club and you have this urge to know about crafts or about wine tasting, there are Rotary fellowships that you can join and be with people around the world that have the same interest as you have. So those are Rotary fellowships. And then we have action groups. If someone is going to, is interested in human trafficking or medical things, they can join action groups as well. Okay, so what did you say, Vincent? You're going to a
Because
luau after this.
Connie was giving us grief because we wore the same shirt today. She said, "Oh, you guys are looking like a couple." I'm saying, "Oh, okay. Well, no, we're going to a luau after, so we want to wear matching outfits."
So again,
Yeah.
you
Again,
guys,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think you guys are like two girls and text each other, what you gonna wear? I wear this.
Yeah, we did that this morning. She did that. She did.
I
did
know
that.
you guys texting
No.
each other right before.
Yeah. Well, it's
That was the
about-
first time that we texted. Okay, but I already had this shirt on that he said he was gonna wear. So we got this brain, this telepathic thing.
Yeah.
Okay, anything
Yeah.
else people want to
Yeah.
talk about?
You know, I have a story for you.
Hey, Sandra.
You know, we left the island for a year. My husband took a job in California, and then Hawaii called him back. And I told him, I said, you know, I'm not going back if I can, one, not have a club, and two, can't find a church. So I found my church, and of course my club was still here. So I immediately went back to my club. And then they're talking about dissolving. And I was like, oh no, cannot. You cannot. I will not let this club go. This is why I came back. If you guys are not going to be here, I'm leaving. So I was going to leave the island again because I wouldn't have my club. So we voted and we said, okay, we're going to hang in there. We're going to make this work. And our club is now growing. And I said, without this club, there's no reason for me to be on the island. So Rotary, for one, has made me a better person. But this club sustains me. It's why I'm here. And I know this is why I came back. So Rotary gives people a reason to be here, to exist. It gives them a purpose. And it gives them a reason to help others. It gives them a desire to want to succeed in helping others. And so that's why we came back outside of my husband's job. But I think when you find a club that gives you fulfillment, you don't ever want to see that club end, no matter how small they get. So I understand Sandy when she says that they couldn't die. And then you want to give your all to that club. So I tell everyone, find the club that you're fit. And you'll never want to go.
Yeah. Well, it's that point about, once you stop looking at your club like members and you start looking at them like they're your family, yeah, then you don't leave them. And if they whittle down and, something happens, then you stay with the family and you build it back up. So yeah, and that's what happens a lot with our clubs out there. So it's great. Yeah. So appreciate that. And where's Alan Okinaka? I have not forgotten about putting together a Hawaiian culture interest group. So I am going to work on that. And you're going to work on it with me. So I'll talk to you about it later. But thank you.
Yeah, I've been doing some research myself, and because
Good, let's do it.
I talked to you about the host culture thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you did a good job today going through all of the important words that we should embrace in the Hawaiian culture. And I think this is going to be it's going to be very important to Rotary because a lot of the things that we hold as being very valuable in making our decisions is what Rotary needs to do. David mentioned our conversation in the committee and or the breakout, and I brought up two negatives, but they're not really negatives, about how we focus. For a while we were saying, hey, we need to bring young people into Rotary. So all the older people thinking, okay, what am I? Dog meat, that kind of a feeling. And people were saying, come out to projects, don't just donate money. And hey, sometimes, physically, people cannot go on a lot of these projects. And so we need to change that kind of thinking. I think that's working together too. So yeah, thank you. You did a great job, Benson. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. But my partner Naomi is over here doing great. I mean, she's the one that actually drives everything. I'm just a pretty face. But anyway, so I want to thank everybody for for coming along, joining us today. You know, we're open to any suggestion, thoughts, ideas that you have. You know, this is really great when we have a training like this, or we're trying to put information out, people actually show up and they want to learn it. And that's that whole kupumao I was talking about, is that here we're very much geared in to wanting to learn, to wanting to advance ourselves, to wanting to be connected to information that helps our Rotary IQ grow. So, okay, well, thanks. Enjoy your Saturday, everybody, and we'll see you again. Actually, 2 more weeks to the district conference, and so we'll definitely see you there. And then next Saturday we're doing board training. So if you're on a board, or you know, you got new incoming people in your clubs that need to be at board training, we're Hanaho again next Saturday, same time, same station. So, okay, we'll see you guys then. Take care. Aloha.
Aloha no.